following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or another print disability that makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org. Your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service now presents a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for today. Hey, it's June the 2nd. Your readers are Lori and
Lita.
Let's start with the weather, and it looks good for the week, but the weekend not so great. Partly sunny and pleasant today. Great day to be outside with a high of 74. It's going to be mainly clear tonight with a low of 52. Partly sunny and pleasant tomorrow with a high of 76. Thursday, partly sunny and pleasant, high of 79. Friday, breezy and pleasant with clouds and sun, high of 78. But then you look at Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. There are so many dark clouds in those little pictures. Saturday, shower and thunderstorm. Sunday, cloudy with showers. Monday, cloudy and showers will be around. If you're not retired, it may look depressing, but you know the weather always changes, so there's good hope there. If you want to be warmer, go to Watonga, Oklahoma, 98. Or if you want to be cooler, go to Angel Fire, New Mexico, 24. And for your air quality, the pollen yesterday was high, and today it is high again, probably because we haven't had the rain, but okay. The sun sets tonight at 8:48 p.m. Do you know what the record high for the U.S. was in June? Is in June forever?
111.
Oh, 127.
Oh, my gosh.
In Arizona back in 1896.
Oh, my goodness.
On to you.
Okay. Well, Buffalo parishes are likely to declare bankruptcy in a move to protect themselves against child sex abuse liability claims and end the Buffalo Diocese prolonged Chapter 11 case. All area Catholic parishes will likely join the diocese in declaring bankruptcy as additional parties. The parishes are set to pursue a process known as rapid prepackaged bankruptcy that has been used in a couple other diocesan Chapter 11 cases around the United States. If all goes according to plan, individual parishes will be technically in a state of bankruptcy for about 48 hours, officials said. Parishes over the weekend published notices of the new direction in their bulletins, although attorneys have yet to file any legal papers about the rapid prepackaged plan with the U.S. Bankruptcy Court for the Western District of New York. This will happen if and only if sufficient votes are received for approval of the plan. This approach has the support of pastors and the diocese said in a statement released to the Buffalo News on Monday. The parish bankruptcy cases will not be commenced until later this year and will come at the very last minute before the confirmation hearing on approval of the diocese plan. It is anticipated that parishes will emerge from bankruptcy within 48 hours, and this approach has been discussed among all pastors and is the approach that was followed by parishes in the Diocese of Rockville Center, as well as in the Archdiocese of New Orleans, which resulted in the successful resolution and emergence from their respective Chapter 11 cases. A committee of clergy working with the attorneys that represent the parishes of the diocese as a separate group in the Buffalo Diocese Chapter 11 case proposed the rapid prepackaged bankruptcies as the best option for parishes to avoid expensive and potentially catastrophic sex abuse litigation. Trustees of each parish will have to vote on whether or not to pursue it. The proposal was not initiated by Chancery officials, diocese spokesman Greg Tucker said. When the Buffalo Diocese filed for Chapter 11 in 2020, the plan was to protect non-debtor parishes and schools from child sex abuse lawsuits through third-party liability releases and a court-ordered channeling injunction. But in 2024, Supreme Court ruling had made the option of keeping parishes from having to file their own bankruptcies much more difficult. The parish bankruptcy approach emerged as perhaps the quickest way for the diocese to exit more than 6 years after Chapter 11 proceedings. Efforts to pursue liability protection for parishes and affiliated Catholic entities through more traditional means ran into significant hurdles due to the Supreme Court's landmark ruling in a case involving opioid maker Purdue Pharma. In its decision, the nation's highest court said non-debtors in bankruptcy proceedings can't receive liability releases without the consent of all creditors, upending what had been standard practice in many Chapter 11 cases, not just those involving the diocese. To satisfy the new consent ruling, the diocese lawyers sought an opt-out voting process that would allow claimants to withhold their consent by checking a box on a ballot and returning it. An unchecked opt-out box or an unreturned ballot would have been considered consent. However, Judge Carl Bucky ruled that the law requires an opt-in ballot procedure, whereby all claimants must check a box expressing consent to the release and return their ballot. Lawyers for the diocese and for the official committee of unsecured creditors, which represents the sex abuse claimants, said it would not be possible with an opt-in vote to get consent from all creditors. Without liability protections, parishes, Catholic affiliates, and insurers would likely no longer agree to settle. Under a rapid prepackaged program, there will be no need to seek consent for third-party liability releases because the parishes and other entities will be considered additional parties to the diocese bankruptcy case and afforded the same liability protections. One possible complication to the parish bankruptcies plan was eliminated when an attorney representing about 30 abuse claimants who had filed an objection to the idea recently withdrew her motion. However, a new potential obstacle emerged with a recent motion from Save Our Buffalo Churches, a grassroots group that has been fighting against parish mergers, church closures, and the use of parish monies toward a settlement fund. Attorney Arthur Baumeister Jr. filed legal papers asking Bucky to grant Save Our Buffalo Churches the ability to appear in court and be heard as an interested entity in the diocese bankruptcy proceeding. Baumeister argued that the group should have the right to argue in court on the issue of using contributions from parishes to settle claims against the diocese, contrary to the purposes for which those funds were solicited. The diocese lawyers were scheduled to file by today a revised plan of reorganization and a disclosure statement explaining in detail how the diocese would come up with the funds to pay a more than $300 million settlement in principle with nearly 900 people who have childhood sexual claims pending. The diocese, its parishes, and Catholic affiliate entities have committed to paying $150 million toward the settlement, broken down as follows: $75 million from the unrestricted savings of 160 parishes, $15 to $20 million in diocese central administration cash and investments, $10 million from Catholic affiliates, including Catholic Charities, Catholic Cemeteries, and OLV Charities, $15 to $20 million in proceeds from sales of diocese-owned properties, $30 million from the sales of parish-owned properties, and the rest, $150 million or more, will come from settled insurance companies. And I would like to say that the bishop is the president of everything, and he has the last vote, so no matter what the parish councils say. I'm just saying, that's a personal opinion.
Interesting. Well, let's talk about the Supreme Court and death row inmate appeals. The Supreme Court on Monday sided with a death row inmate in Florida who was blocked from challenging his sentence even though a lower court acknowledged a key witness lied on stand, marking the third time the conservative high court has backed an inmate sentenced to death in recent weeks. In an unsigned opinion, the court threw out a decision from a federal appeals court that sided with the state because it said the judges considered DNA evidence that had not been presented at trial. Over a dissent from two conservative justices, the Supreme Court's summary decision will require the federal appeals court to take another look at the case. It was the latest of several high-profile death penalty cases in which the justices had sided with a defendant over the objection of some of the members of the court's conservative wing. Last week, the court ruled in favor of a black man on death row in Mississippi who said the prosecutor engaged in racial bias by striking black jurors. A week earlier, the court let stand an appeals court decision that barred Alabama from executing a man that the lower courts found is likely intellectually disabled. Last year, the Supreme Court ordered a new trial for Richard Glossip, whose appeal drew national attention and support from the state's conservative attorney general. After nearly 3 decades in prison and 3 last meals, Glossip was released on bond just last month.
Wow.
On to you,
Isn't that
Linda.
something, right?
Yeah.
And as Iran talks continue, Israel and Hezbollah take a pause. President Trump said Israel and Hezbollah agreed to stop attacking each other in Lebanon and that talks with Iran were continuing after fresh violence threatened negotiations to end the Middle East conflict. Trump said he had spoken with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and representatives from Hezbollah, which the United States considers a terrorist group, in separate phone calls. There will be no troops going to Beirut, and any troops that are on their way have already been turned back, Trump said Monday in a social media post. I had a very good call with Hezbollah, and they agreed that all shooting will stop, that Israel will not attack them, and they will not attack Israel. There was no immediate public acknowledgement of the alleged truce from Israel nor Hezbollah. The escalating violence in Lebanon in recent days risked upending indirect talks between Washington and Tehran on extending a ceasefire agreement. Earlier Monday, Iran said it would suspend negotiations with the U.S. in protest over Israel's offensive in Lebanon. Trump, in a subsequent post, said talks are continuing at a rapid pace with Iran. Negotiators will suspend talks and the exchange of documents through mediators, the semi-official Tasnim news agency reported Monday, citing a statement it didn't attribute to any official or institution. Iran threatened a complete closure of the Strait of Hormuz, a crucial conduit for oil and liquefied natural gas, according to the report. Trump earlier said he hadn't heard from Iran regarding reports that it suspended talks, an NBC reporter said, according to social media posts. Washington and Tehran have been trading messages on a draft deal, which would likely see 2 sides extend their ceasefire by around 2 months, with Iran reopening the strait and the U.S. lifting a blockade of Iranian ports. Trump is under increasing pressure to end a war that sent energy prices surging and is unpopular with most Americans. Yet he needs to balance that with the likely criticism if Washington unfreezes billions of dollars of Iranian funds, as Tehran is demanding. Just sit back and relax. It will all work out well in the end, Trump said last Sunday, U.S. time, according to a social media post. The Strait of Hormuz also has seen renewed clashes. The U.S. struck Iranian radar and command and control sites over the weekend, with the military saying it was a measured response to aggressive Iranian actions, including the shoot-down of a drone over international waters. U.S. forces successfully intercepted 2 Iranian ballistic missiles targeting American forces base in Kuwait, Central Command said on Monday. 3 ballistic missiles in total targeted the Ali al-Salem air base, a person familiar with the strike said, asking not to be identified by name because details aren't public. Kuwait intercepted the 3rd missile. Iran has insisted any agreement with Washington must apply to fighting across the region, including in Lebanon, where Tehran-backed Hezbollah and Israel are engaged in a parallel wall. Israel, which is not party to the talks between the U.S. and the Islamic Republic, deepened its invasion of Lebanon over the weekend, while Hezbollah stepped up attacks on Israel's north. Iran warned it may target northern Israel if Israeli attacks on Lebanon continued, the semi-official Iranian student news agency reported, citing Iran's Central Military Command. Despite the current ceasefire between the United States and Iran, it remains too risky to move the thousands of sailors stuck in the Gulf, the head of the UN shipping agency said. We will not be able to activate anything until the root causes are addressed and there is more of a final agreement, a ceasefire, or complete agreement between the parties involved in the conflict, Arsenio Dominguez, Secretary General of the International Maritime Organization, told Reuters. There are an estimated 20,000 seafarers aboard vessels stuck in the Gulf of Iran, imposes restrictions on movement through the Strait of Hormuz. In the meantime, it's going to be too risky to take any actions in moving the seafarers because there are no guarantees on their safety. 11 seafarers have been killed in the Gulf since the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran began on the 28th of February, according to IMO data. The IMO has been trying to arrange a safe maritime corridor to enable vessels to exit, including discussions with parties involving Iran in Oman in recent weeks.
And you're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 14 minutes after the hour. Whoops, changed to 15. 15 minutes after the hour.
Perfect.
In my view, Joseph Spina of Amherst cherishes his introduction to the power of stories. A lifetime of reading started early. A signature facet of our world's culture is the story. Perhaps the most significant stories are those passed down from elders to young people because they lacked a substrate upon which to record history. A perfect example would be the indigenous peoples who, without a written language, kept their history intact. Many legends may not have been dead-on accurate, but they bore the essence of factual history. And everyone loves a story. From my earliest days, stories fascinated me. My mother, a Scottish immigrant, shared stories of her country's history and their struggles against the tyranny of the British Crown. A great respecter of education, she taught me to read before I entered kindergarten. I was born not long before the 1929 market crash. Things were tough among the necessities of life, including books for young people. My initiation into the world was through the kindness of an older kid in the neighborhood who loaned me a little book. Starting in the 1920s and peaking in the 1930s, these cheap, pocket-sized paperbacks included both fiction and non-fiction titles. They were thick, made of crude paper, roughly 4 inches by 5 inches, with story text on the page to the left and an illustration on the page to the right. My first story was The Adventures of Dick Tracy. I returned one and was rewarded with another. Unfortunately, that well ran dry. At one point, we lived within walking distance of the Grant Ferry business section, where I stumbled upon a dusty second-hand book and magazine storefront. Its musty smell was like ambrosia to me. There I found an unlimited supply of Argosy magazines that featured the thrilling adventures of the Shadow on his never-ending search for the bad guys. I begged my parents for a nickel to buy a magazine, and thus began a romance with that little store. Jobs blossomed, and life became more comfortable. Through the kindness of my parents, I received a little radio of my own. A new world opened for everyone to enter. Radio was king. Every family had at least one radio through which to keep track of what was happening in the world. In Radioland, we did not have to see images. We rode our imaginations to new destinations. Walking through the neighborhood in the summer, you could hear mothers listening to their favorite serial stories. Each lasted 15 minutes and swept one into another world. Some of the favorites were Stella Dallas, Ma Perkins, One Man's Family, and Backstage Wife. There were hundreds. After school each day, kids would rush home to follow their favorite heroes before supper and maybe, if they were lucky, before bedtime. We heard Little Orphan Annie, Jack Armstrong, The Lone Ranger, and Dick Tracy's were among many others. I always made sure to rise early on a Saturday morning to hear Let's Pretend, a dramatic retelling of fairy tales. As I got older, I became a constant visitor to our local library. There I entered the exciting world of swashbuckling heroes on land and sea. I hold a special place in my heart for Miss Corcoran, my sophomore English teacher, who must have seen something in me, for she loaned me her personal copies of the world's great literature, and I am forever grateful.
And let's look at the editorial cartoon. And we have a picture of, it's definitely Donald Trump dressed up as Patton with a little whip behind him and his big black boots and a big American flag in the background. And Trump is saying, well, he's wearing a sash that says, "Never mind." And he's saying, "But now I'm bored with Iran and I want to address a real threat to national security, the blockade of my ballroom." And that was from John Deering. And let's go to another voice. Let's, as long as we're talking about old-fashioned stuff like books, let's talk about summer camp. In an age where young people are more connected than ever through screens, they are interestingly often more disconnected from each other and from themselves. The constant pull of phones, social media, and digital entertainment has reshaped childhood, replacing unstructured outdoor play and face-to-face interaction with memes, curated feeds, and notifications. As a result, many parents and educators are asking, where can young people go to simply be kids again? One powerful answer, proven over generations, is summer camp. Summer camp offers something increasingly rare, the chance to unplug and engage fully with the world around you. Days are filled with timeless activities such as hiking wooded trails, learning archery, riding horses, arts and crafts, singing songs, and biking along winding paths. These experiences offer a chance to slow down, explore, and just belong. Removed from the comforts and routines of home, young people begin to develop independence and resilience. They learn how to solve problems, make decisions, and navigate social dynamics with peers from different backgrounds. Campers build essential life skills that cannot be taught through a screen. Camp also nurtures leadership in a way that feels organic and lasting. Older campers mentors younger ones, counselors model positive behavior, and everyone contributes to a shared community. These lessons, how to listen, how to lead, how to cooperate, stay with young people long after summer ends. As someone who has experienced all of this as a camper, a counselor, and now a director, I've seen firsthand the transformative impact it can have. Camp is not just a place, it's a feeling, a tradition, and a foundation for lifelong friendships. It's where young people discover who they are when the noise fades and the real world comes into focus. For more than 100 years, Camp Turner has been providing that experience to generations of young people. Nestled in the natural beauty of Allegheny State Park, one of the New York's most treasured landscapes, Camp Turner continues to offer a space where kids can unplug, grow, and create memories that last a lifetime. The friendships formed, the lessons learned, and the confidence gained at camp endure long after the final campfire has burned low. And that was submitted by John Mann, who's the director of Camp Turner.
And that's awesome.
It is.
Summer camp, it's heaven.
Yes, it is.
And you have to have those s'mores too. And in an editorial, we're going to talk about Pass India's law. It seems a safe presumption that family members would be informed when a loved one in jail is suffering a serious medical emergency or a mental health crisis. India Cummings' family never received that courtesy. State legislation to make sure this doesn't happen to other families is now under discussion. Sadly, it is needed. Cummings died in 2016 while being held in the Erie County Holding Center. Her death became one of Western New York's most disturbing examples of institutional neglect. The state's Commission on Correction found that Cummings' medical care was so grossly incompetent and inadequate as to shock the conscience. The commission also determined that her death was a homicide due to medical neglect. In her final days, Cummings refused medications and meals, went as long as 32 hours without urinating, and lay in a puddle of urine without the staff of the jail responding. Her family was unaware of what was happening. That failure is the inspiration behind India's law, introduced by State Senator April Baskin from Buffalo. The proposal would require county jails to notify family members within 24 hours if their incarcerated relative is experiencing a serious medical event or a mental crisis that risks danger to themselves or to others. It would also require the facilities to transfer the person in need of treatment to an appropriate medical facility within those 24 hours. Additionally, the legislation would require visitation to the person's next of kin or designee during such a crisis. Such notification should not require a special law. It should already be standard practice. As reported by the News' Robert Gavin, Cummings' death led to protests over the treatment of the mentally ill in the jail, overseen at that time by Erie County Sheriff Timothy Howard. In 2024, Erie County agreed to pay Cummings' family $3.8 million to settle two lawsuits that Cummings' mother, Tawana Wyatt, brought against dozens of defendants at the lockup, alleging wrongful death, medical malpractice, negligence, and violation of civil and constitutional rights. Family members are often the ones most familiar with a loved one's medical history, medications, behavioral patterns, and mental health needs. They can provide critical information to medical staff, healthcare providers, and personnel. They can also advocate for their loved one when that person is unable to do so for themselves. Excluding family members' participation does not serve the person in crisis, nor the institution charged with that person's care. There is a need for clear standards. India's law establishes a timeline for transferring the person in need of treatment to an appropriate medical facility within 24 hours, creating expectations that can be measured as well as enforced. The need for flexibility should not result in dangerous delays in treatment or leave families unaware that a loved one is suffering a potentially life-threatening crisis while being held in jail. No one can say with certainty whether family involvement would have changed the outcome for Cummings. What is certain is that her family was denied the opportunity to know what was happening, to advocate on her behalf, or to offer important information. Baskin put it plainly: India Cummings should be alive. India's law cannot undo the past, but it can help ensure that families are not left in the dark as their loved ones suffer health crises while in government custody. The bill went to the Senate's Crime Victims' Crime and Corrections Committee of the Senate and Assembly Committee on Correction. It deserves swift approval from state lawmakers.
And in the opinion of Joe Battenfeld, Democrats in need of better icons than Colbert. Democrats need to come up with better cultural icons than aging and washed-up multimillionaire former talk show hosts. Liberal hero Stephen Colbert's long swan song into podcast oblivion showed just how clueless Democrats are who worship the rich late-night TV host who lost his job because his show lost $40 million a year for CBS. Despite all the fanfare and attention devoted to his final show, in which he rolled out ancient rocker Paul McCartney, just 6.7 million viewers watched it, compared with 55 million who tuned in to Johnny Carson's last show in '92. And that 6.7 million was Colbert's largest audience in 10 years. He normally drew only 2.5 million viewers a night. The 62-year-old Colbert was not banished from the late-night airways because he was a fierce critic of President Trump. He was ejected because he wasn't funny, and he was a financial disaster for his network. His late show continued to nosedive to the tune of millions of dollars a year in losses, and the show was canceled when the network could not figure out how to make the finances work in an entertainment world increasingly dominated by streaming, according to the New York Times. Colbert's show even got higher ratings than other late-night comedy shows, but that couldn't pull it out of the financial gutter. In the last decade, young audiences coveted by advertisers have deserted late-night TV for streaming channels. Colbert's audience consisted of liberal baby boomers who now can't stay up that late to watch the show. In 2025, the late-night shows reportedly drew about $250 million in advertising revenue, 50% less than before the pandemic. Just The Late Show alone lost $50 million during that time. The show cost CBS $100 million a year to produce. But Colbert got rich with his unfunny satire. He earned $15 million a year, and he's reportedly now worth $75 million. Colbert isn't even among the richest late-night talk show hosts. Jay Leno, who stayed away from Colbert's last show, is reportedly worth $450 million. Colbert, like Tucker Carlson and others, is now finding out that he's not bigger than his platform. He'll resort to podcasts to tell his Trump jokes. Where is Carlson today? He's a fringe element who does the occasional podcast because he lost his platform. Where's Megyn Kelly? Greta Van Susteren? They all found out they don't matter once they lost their shows. The 71-year-old Van Susteren, with her surgery-altered face, is on Newsmax, and Kelly is a podcaster. Yet Democrats like Senators Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders have circled the wagons around Colbert and turned him into some kind of martyr, convinced he was canceled because of his Trump jokes. They have turned his cancellation into a symbol of the First Amendment, even though in fact it's a symbol of a failed television show. Colbert didn't care that he alienated middle America and tens of millions of viewers who don't agree with his self-absorbed comedy and politics. He is similar to the Democratic Party, preaching to progressives on the East and West Coast while ignoring the rest of the country. Like Colbert, Democrats are also doomed to fail unless they figure out how to connect with average Americans. The bitter, woke drumbeat is not working anymore.
And you're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 30 minutes after the hour. And we'll hear from Kathleen Parker on animal welfare. Congress is facing a cruelty problem. When you think about the 2026 Farm Bill, you'd be forgiven if root canals suddenly seemed alluring. The bill, a massive package of federal legislation, is the latest iteration of one signed into law back in 2018. The legislation expired in 2023 and has been slogging through Congress with annual extensions. The current version lasts until September the 30th. It is unlikely anyone has read the nearly 1,000-page tome outside of animal welfare activists and special interest groups. The bill passed the House in April and is expected to be unveiled in the Senate early this month. The bill includes the proposed Save Our Bacon Act, which is designated to override state animal welfare requirements. The act aims to reverse California's Proposition 12 and Massachusetts' Question 3, which voters passed in 2018 and 2016 respectively, to prohibit the sale of food products derived from livestock raised in extreme confinement. This hardly seems to be an unreasonable request for a modern, enlightened society. Besides, a majority of residents in those two states, among several others, want it that way. Whatever happened to the Republican love affair with states' rights? I guess it depends on whose bacon is getting fried. This legislation matters beyond the humane treatment of animals intended for slaughter and consumption. Globally, humans slaughter more than 80 billion land-raised animals annually, and the numbers are climbing. Should the Save Our Bacon Act make the final version of the bill, federal legislators would be undermining states' constitutional rights to self-determination while potentially strengthening countries such as China. In 2013, the Chinese company WH Group purchased Smithfield Foods, America's largest pork producer, with a $4 billion loan from the state-owned Bank of China.
Wow.
Smithfield Foods, that is hard to say, is a member of the National Pork Producers Council, which filed a lawsuit challenging Proposition 12 in 2019. That case went to the Supreme Court, which ruled in California's favor and memorably produced Justice Neil Gorsuch's majority opinion in 2023 that while the Constitution addresses many weighty issues, the type of pork chops California merchants may sell is not on that list. The Save Our Bacon Act could nullify hundreds of state and local laws affecting livestock production, according to a report from Harvard Law School. This would mean that scores of farmers who have retrofitted their factories to meet higher standards would have spent their money needlessly. These include Smithfield, even though the company still lobbies against the rules. It also would end legislative progress on animal wellness issues. The Senate Agricultural Committee could issue its version without the Save Our Bacon Act provision, but this largely will be determined by Republican Chairman John Boozman from Arkansas and Ranking Democrat Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota. At a National Association of Farm Broadcasting event in April before the House passed its bill, Boozman indicated that the Senate version wouldn't have the Save Our Bacon Act. Klobuchar
Yes.
hasn't committed to killing the act, perhaps because she's running for governor of Minnesota, the second largest pork producing state. If the Senate committee does cut the provision, Iowa's two Republican senators, Chuck Grassley and Joni Ernst, co-sponsors of the Senate counterpart to Save Our Bacon Act, could try to re-add it as an amendment. But ultimately, the two chambers will have to reconcile the bills in conference. Or, if history is our guide, not. The Senate should reject the act for several logical reasons. A 2024 study by NSF, a public health and safety nonprofit, found that nearly 70% of Americans say animal wellness is important to their purchasing decisions. Most Americans would instinctively oppose handing over state jurisdictional power to other countries, especially China. It is philosophically and economically un-American to punish small and medium-sized farms to fund corporate interests. Finally, scientific evidence shows that stress and improper handling of farm animals before slaughter can lead to lower quality meat and taste. If enough senators join the act's supporters in the House to infringe upon the rights of citizens not to participate in animal cruelty, their next act may be to save their own bacon.
Yeah. And as part of our newspaper reading, we now present the day's death listings. If you need further information on any of these names, you can call us at 716-821-5555. Robert R. Buznicki, Cordero L. Consolacion, William Bill Burke, the founder of the LA Marathon, passed away at 87. Raymond Berry, who's 93, a Hall of Famer, wideout, who later coached, passed away. Mildred A. Cummings, Nee Ray. Cecil W. Green, Sr. Jean M. Mazurek. Juliet J. Muscarella, Nee Contrino. Virginia Marie Olszewski. Stanley Albert Starr. Again, if you need any further information on these names, please call us at 716-821-5555. That's 716-821-5555.
Are you ready for your royal stars?
I am, indeed.
Happy birthday for Tuesday, June 2nd. You are intellectual, courageous, and undaunted by challenges. You're also quick-witted, and analytical. This year is the end of a 9-year cycle. Take inventory of your life. It's time to let go of people, places, and things from the past that have held you back. If you are an Aries, today you have lots of common sense and you can think very clearly. Tonight, you're going to be noticed. If you're a Taurus, you are energized today, particularly about travel ideas or issues related to politics and religion. When it comes to finances, you will be conservative. Tonight, you're going to learn something new. Geminis, this is an excellent day for getting things done because you have an orderly state of mind and a sense of self-discipline. Tonight, check your finances. Cancers, research will go well today because you have the patience and stamina to seek solutions to your problems or answers to your questions. Tonight, please be cooperative. Leos, you might lead a group today. People see you as sensible and ready to assume the responsibilities of the position. Tonight, you better get organized so that you can still handle that position tomorrow. Virgos, you have lots of energy to play and assert yourself in social situations today. So tonight, be socialized and be friendly. Libras, double check anything that a partner, spouse, or close friend says today because issues could be blurred or cloudy. Ooh. Tonight, you can just relax at home. Scorpios, this is a tricky day. In one way, you feel confident, assertive, and even persuasive. And yet, something might make you doubt yourself. Tonight, study something. Sagittarius, you're happy to work hard today if you can boost your earnings. You might take on the responsibilities related to the kids. Tonight, maintain your belongings. That's interesting. Capricorn, when it comes to your job or dealing with your kids or something related to sports, the entertainment world, or the hospitality industry, you're feeling confident today.
That's pretty broad.
Okay, yeah. Tonight, though, you're in charge of all those things. Aquarius, this is an excellent day to deal with kids or to lead sports or to give practical suggestions in areas related to the hospitality industry or the entertainment world. Tonight, enjoy your privacy. And finally, for Pisces, because a parent or a family member has assured you of something, you feel confident about sharing this information with friends or a group. So tonight, get with those friendships and share away. Back to you.
And here's maybe a little bit of good news. NRG is selling off its former power plant in Dunkirk. 10 years after shutting its Dunkirk power plant, NRG Energy has sold the station and the land around it to a developer specializing in repurposing long-time industrial properties, a significant step in getting the property back to useful life. Houston-based NRG said it has completed the sale of the sprawling facility to Genover, a Texas-based company that works with corporations and utilities to prepare former power plants and other industrial properties for redevelopment. The firm manages deconstruction and demolition of utility facilities and provides consulting services to help clients navigate brownfield cleanup issues and liability. Financial terms were not disclosed, and this is an important step for Dunkirk and builds on years of collaboration, said Matt Pissner, Senior Vice President of NRG and President of NRG Wholesale. We care deeply about this community and are proud of the role the facility played here. Genover will be responsible for leading the next phase of site planning, preparation, and eventual redevelopment, working in conjunction with city officials in Dunkirk and Chautauqua County leaders, including the Chautauqua County Industrial Development Agency. I'm very pleased that all of the hard work of the CCIDA, County, City of Dunkirk, and other stakeholders contributed to getting the NRG plant back into productive use has finally resulted in something very meaningful and positive, County Executive P.J. Wendell said. NRG operated its Dunkirk generating station from the 1950s until 2016, when the 600-megawatt coal-fueled power plant was retired. The plant sits on 75 acres, but the property includes another 500 acres of landfill where NRG used to dump coal ash, said Vince DeJoy, Director of Planning and Development for the City of Dunkirk. DeJoy said the plans for the property are still vague, and he and CCIDA CEO Mark Geis will be meeting with Genover officials Wednesday after holding an introductory meeting 2 weeks ago with NRG. DeJoy said the developer will try to assess what's there before determining the next step. They don't know what the extent of contamination is on the site, he said. But DeJoy said Dunkirk wants to see the facility repowered, particularly as a nuclear power plant, and he said he understands Genover would be open to looking at that. Governor Kathy Hochul has called for construction of new nuclear power generating capacity that would produce at least 1 gigawatt of additional energy, citing the impending electricity shortage that the state is facing. And the New York Power Authority issued a request for information last year for interested developers and municipalities to respond. 23 firms and 8 municipalities expressed interest, but Dunkirk was the only one in western New York. Beyond nuclear, DeJoy said, we've done a lot of planning and there are some different scenarios, but nothing definite. Some power plants locally and nationally have been reused for data centers, particularly for cryptocurrency mining or AI computing, since they already have the infrastructure. DeJoy said that would still require having power at the site, but the city would not support a large data mining operation, although a hyperscale data center could be a good use. This site has been part of our community identity for generations, and its transition opens the door to new opportunities for growth and investment, Mayor Kate Widswias said.
All right. Well, we have flesh-eating screwworms heading for American livestock.
Oh, boy.
Oh, my.
Oh, boy.
Southern states are bracing for a potential invasion of the New World screwworm that could disrupt livestock markets and raise already high meat prices. So far, the parasite has yet to land in the United States, but it has been spreading across Mexico and Central America. Previously eradicated from the United States in the 1960s, the fly can infest livestock, pets, wildlife, and in rare cases, us, humans. The parasites are named for their larvae, which burrow into living flesh like a screw,
Yeah.
causing severe tissue damage and sometimes death.
Ouch.
Sorry, people. With multiple cases reported within 100 miles of the United States-Mexico border, the federal government has already banned the import of live cattle from Mexico. It's going to be very challenging, I think, at this point to keep it out of the United States, said Dr. Samantha Holick, state veterinarian with the New Mexico Livestock Board, which regulates the livestock industry. Beef prices are at record highs, with federal data showing the average price of ground beef at $6.90 per pound. That is a 77% increase since January of 2020, when ground beef stood at $3.89 per pound. Years of drought, increased operating costs, and other supply disruptions have pushed ranchers to liquidate their herds to the smallest level in 75 years, according to the American Farm Bureau Federation. Despite the drop in supply, demand remains strong, which has pushed many ranchers to feed cattle to record high weights. Beef prices are unlikely to fall because it takes time to grow herds and to increase production, said David Anderson, professor and extension specialist in livestock and food product marketing at Texas A&M. He said beef producers appear well prepared to fight a domestic screwworm invasion, which many view as an inevitability. I think we will re-eradicate it. I think it just depends on how much time it will take us to do that, he said. The long-term response. Last week, the New Mexico Department of Agriculture launched a new website in collaboration with several agencies to provide a single source of information about the New World screwworm, including how to identify infestations, how to protect people and animals, and how to report suspected cases. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has approved emergency use of several medications for prevention and treatment of the parasite. Those include ivermectin, the drug many people hoarded for off-label use during the coronavirus pandemic, even though the U.S. Food and Drug Administration did not approve its use for that virus. But Holick said ranchers must be careful about starting preventive medications too early or about overusing them. While it's important that we have these medications, we need to be very judicious about how we use them because we don't want to create resistance to these medications and then have them become ineffective, Holick said. The fly larvae can burrow into the flesh of living animals through wounds as small as a tick bite or in body openings such as the eyes or the nose.
Yikes.
About the size of a common housefly, the adult screwworm fly has orange eyes, a metallic blue or green body, and 3 dark stripes along the back. Sounds like science fiction, doesn't it?
I know.
New Mexico has distributed test kits to every county extension office for producers and the general public who suspect cases. Holick said the state has already performed about 30 tests. All of those were negative. She noted that the last infestation took more than a decade for American and Mexican officials to eradicate. It's not going to be a quick fix, she said. It's going to be a long-term response, and it's going to require everybody to work together to help get control of it.
Oh, boy.
To combat the screwworm, the federal government plans to breed sterile male flies and then release them into areas with established populations. These sterilized males will mate with females, which will then lay unfertilized eggs. With females mating only once in their lifespan, officials say this method progressively reduces and eliminates the fly population. The USDA just broke ground on a $750 million sterile fly facility in Edinburgh, Texas, that aims to produce up to 300 million sterile flies per week when it opens next year. The agency has also invested in sterile fly facilities in Mexico and Panama. But Texas Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller said those plants won't produce enough sterile flies to eradicate the parasites. We're going to get infested, he said. There's no doubt about it. And the USDA knows that. They've already distributed test kits to ranchers and farmers and veterinarians and wildlife personnel up and down the Rio Grande. Miller said ranchers should have no trouble accessing effective drugs like ivermectin, which he said he still personally takes each week. He expects the screwworm to cause temporary fluctuations in livestock markets as ranchers treat and quarantine affected herds. Texas is by far the nation's leading beef producer with more than 12.5 million cattle. For now, he expects an outbreak to affect animals in a few counties along the southern border. Now, if the whole state of Texas gets infected, that's a lot, he said. In the case of an outbreak, USDA has created monitoring, reporting, and quarantine protocols for animals. But because the disease does not create food safety concerns, the agency will not stop any movement of animal products, including meat. But the infestation could ripple to other animal products, livestock, and even pets, officials warn. While ranchers can hold back cattle during an outbreak, dairies may face immediate losses during infections, according to the University of California Agriculture and Natural Resources. Dairy cows produce milk every day that must be processed immediately. If a farm is quarantined or a plant shuts down, milk spoils quickly and has to be dumped, says Daniela Bruno, a dairy advisor. She said producers should review their insurance coverage and bolster biosecurity against threats such as the screwworm and avian flu, which has reemerged in California dairies.
Okay, can you imagine the job? What do you do for a living? Well, I make sterile flies.
I breed sterile male flies.
Wow, that's interesting.
Well, I'm saving your life in the future.
That's right. Okay, so Toyota has become the 8th founding partner at Bills' new stadium. The Buffalo Bills have another founding partner at the new Highmark Stadium as the team gets closer to filling out a full roster of critical and significant sponsorship deals. Toyota has signed a multi-year agreement with the Bills to continue as the official automotive partner of the team, and it will become a founding partner at the stadium set to open in a few short months. As a founding partner, Toyota will be able to have prominent branding and automotive displays throughout the stadium. The company will also provide exclusive fan experiences. Toyota joins a long list of Bills corporate partners who are staying on with the team as they move into the $2.2 billion stadium. Some are not only extending their previous agreement into the new stadium era, but are also extending these partnerships. It is likely a heftier investment, but should have more payoff with the attention and marketing opportunities that come with being associated with the increasingly popular team and its new building. The automotive brand is the team's 8th founding partner at the new stadium, with the Bills continuing to build out a stable of partnership agreements that are an important revenue stream for the team. Wegmans, Kaleida, M&T Bank, Verizon, PepsiCo, and Ticketmaster have also signed on as founding partners at the new stadium, and Highmark will continue as the stadium's namesake and is also considered a founding partner. Pete Goelli, president of business operations of the Bills, has said that the team will be looking for 8 to 10 founding partners, so the Bills are close to reaching that goal. There may still be 1 or 2 founding partner announcements to come before the stadium is scheduled to open in August. We are committed to partnering with best-in-class organizations, and Toyota is at the very top of that list, Jason Hartland, chief CEO for the Bills, said in a statement. We are excited to continue our long-term partnership as we enter this new chapter of Buffalo Bills football. The deal focuses on enhancing Toyota fan engagement opportunities through interactive activity inside and outside the stadium, as well as exclusive vehicle showcases and community philanthropic and sustainability initiatives with the Bills across the Buffalo area. Toyota has been the official automotive partner of the NFL since 2023 and has individual partnerships with and around a dozen NFL teams. This partnership represents more than just sports. It's about bringing fans together, supporting local communities, and driving excellence both on and off the field. We look forward to creating memorable experience for fans and building a strong future together.
And the budget for Buffalo schools gives but also takes away. The Buffalo School Board's approval last month of a $1.2 billion budget was unanimous. But in their yes votes, the 9 school board members also signaled support for 131 other pages of budget information, the product of 5 months of finagling by the district's leadership cabinet, finance department, school budget teams, and discussions between principals and their associated superintendents of school leadership. The theme of the budget season was chipping away at an expected deficit for 26-27, which could have been as high as $85.8 million. The final deficit of $66.2 million is still not sustainable over the long term, district's leaders said, but not catastrophic as long as further steps are taken, such as closing 4 or more schools next year to keep the district's cash reserves from dropping below $200 million. The district, too, trimmed the approved budget deficit for 25-26 from $78.8 million to $60.8 million through mid-year cuts. Buffalo's cash reserves, which exceeded $420 million about 2 years ago, allowed the district to dedicate more than $125 million to balance the last 2 budgets. This is the last year we can use a significant amount of reserves to balance the budget, Jim Barnes, Buffalo Schools Chief Financial Officer, cautioned the board. And even though the district passed on closing schools the last 2 years, board members were pleased by the financial progress. We knew there would be a deficit, said Cindy McKeechon, North District Representative, but that's a big deal that it's reduced by $12 million. How were add-backs handled? Buffalo's late budget tradition of superintendent add-backs, in which the district's head demonstrates priorities by earmarking money for specific areas of the district, looked a little different in Pascal Mubenga's first year. Instead of waiting until just before the budget vote, Mubenga asked his associate superintendents in April to collect a list of needs from the principals they oversee. Mubenga said he met about 70 or 80% of the priorities on that list, amounting to 19 positions, with assistant principals among the most added. The district has emphasized there's no slush fund or pool of money set aside annually for the superintendent's whims, as past board members have alleged. The purpose of acting early, Mubenga said, was to avoid a history of pressured board members might apply to leadership in the days before the budget vote. The superintendent said his $10 million in add-backs came from funds the district received from the state education department for its 35 schools in the comprehensive support and improvement accountability tier. Buffalo will add 8 assistant principals for next year. With my expectation of making sure principals are in the classrooms, monitoring instruction, Mubenga said. They tend to need more assistant principals to deal with the discipline issues and managerial issues. Those issues can tie up those principals for a long time. What about student support staff? More than any other position, the district's student support staff, the counselors, psychologists, and social workers, were outspoken at school board meetings during the 5-month budget cycle. Led by Counselor Maureen McNamara-Utag and social workers Sterling South and Jamie Paolini, the advocates told Mubenga and the Board of Student Social and Emotional Needs and how their 3 positions work in concert through a tiered system to reach nearly the entire school.
And you are listening to a reading of articles from the Buffalo News for June 2nd on your Niagara Frontier radio reading service. We'll return for more reading after this short break. Your readers today are
Lori and
Lita.
If you're listening to this publication online, you're probably using our website, a podcast player like Spotify or iTunes, a streaming service like Siro, or a smart speaker. Did you know that we now have a dedicated app that can be downloaded to any mobile device, like a smartphone or tablet, for free? App users can conveniently access our live stream and any episode of our podcast easier than ever. To download the app, just type NFRRS in the search window in the Apple App Store or in the Google Play Store. Contact us anytime if you have any questions by calling 716-821-5555, extension 5. Thank you.
we'll continue now with our reading of articles from today's Buffalo News. And your name is over there?
Lori?
And my name is Lita. And in a rarity for housing market, Ellicott plans 300-unit mixed-unit development in Orchard Park. It's been more than a dozen years since Ellicott Development Company bought more than 100 acres in the Orchard Park hamlet of Webster Corners. Since then, the only work on the former Seville Farms property was the construction of a healthcare center for Buffalo Medical Group at 3900 North Buffalo Street, just south of Holland Lane. But now, Ellicott is proposing a two-phase redevelopment of 106 acres that would see the creation of 57 single-family patio homes, 112 townhomes, 168 apartments, and 3 commercial buildings, while leaving nearly half the acreage as wetlands. The firm has been working behind the scenes on its plans and various regulatory reviews for at least 7 years, particularly for wetlands evaluation. We just really wanted to complete that project and get it done, said Ellicott CEO William Palladino. I'm not real comfortable with where construction costs are or interest rates, but when we feel it's right, we'll push forward. The project at the southwestern corner of Webster and North Buffalo Roads, extending south toward Holland, is a rare example of one of the major developers moving ahead with a large-scale market-rate residential project in the last few years, as soaring construction costs, higher interest rates, and tighter lending criteria have forced most developers to put almost all their projects on hold. I do not feel conditions are getting better now, Palladino said. We think there's a good demand for one-story, single-family housing, patio-type homes, and we're going to look to tap into that market. First, the developer needs to get the town to rezone the land, which has commercial categories on the edge and residential in the interior. Ellicott applied to the town last month to change 64.6 acres at the northern end of the site from 2 more restrictive residential categories to a third that will allow its development plan. That area will contain 57 patio homes with 18 lots arrayed around a cul-de-sac jutting south from Webster, and 39 more laid out along both sides of a longer road that would be constructed from Webster to Holland. 2 stormwater ponds would sit behind the cul-de-sac. The homes would be at least 1,400 square feet for one-story designs and at least 1,800 square feet for two-story homes with first floors of 1,000 square feet, and there would still be 23 acres of open space. In the second phase, Ellicott would ask for a rezoning of another 40 acres to the south of the single-family homes from 2 residential classifications and 1 business classification to a gateway mixed-use zone, which allows a walkable district featuring a high-quality public realm and design criteria. The mixed-use district could contain commercial, residential, entertainment, cultural, lodging, or office uses. On the north side of Holland, Ellicott would construct 11 two-story, 4-unit townhomes, clustered for 44 units in all, with individual driveways and a road wrapping around and between them. There would also be 2 4-story mixed-unit rectangular buildings with 36 apartments and over 11,000 square feet of commercial space in each, facing Holland, plus 2 4-story residential buildings with 48 units in each and 3 10-car garages. A giant central parking field and dog park would also be included. On the south side of Holland, behind the Buffalo Medical, a future development site of 6 acres will contain a proposed 1-story building of 50,000 square feet with parking on all 4 sides and a circular drive-up entrance. Next to it would be 2 1-story buildings at over almost 13,000 square feet, laid out perpendicularly. It's very difficult to picture this,
yeah.
Yes. The site would include walking trails and boardwalks. That's the important thing. In all, there would be 55.1 acres of wetland, open space, and stormwater management. The project is now under environmental review by the town prior to any decision on rezoning. The project also needs site plan and subdivision approval, as well as various local, state, and federal permits. Good luck with that. Construction is expected to take 3 to 5 years. I think this will be well received out there, Palladino said.
Indoor farm aims to bring healthy food to the east side. An indoor hydroponics farm that's been germinating for more than 8 years is finally coming closer to fruition on the east side, with a likely location in a newly renovated building as part of the Northland Corridor. The Project Rainfall venture is seeking to lease a former manufacturing building located at 541 East Delavan Avenue for a business focused on indoor hydroponics farming to grow microgreens and baby greens, according to the Buffalo Urban Development Corps, which owns that property. The facility would also include packaging operations, cold and dry storage, and limited processing and distribution of the produce, according to a BUDC memo to its board. The business plans to provide workforce development training and programming for nearby residents, as well as operate a farmers market and provide commercial kitchen and production space to local food entrepreneurs. Having a community-minded operator, that's a big thing for us, said BUDC President Brandy Merriweather. We talk about manufacturing, but there's all types of manufacturing, and this is an innovation that we'd love to see on the east side of Buffalo when you look at the magnitude of what she is trying to do. Led by founder, president, and CEO Rita Hubbard Robinson, Project Rainfall is owned by the National Witness Project, a nonprofit formed to increase knowledge, awareness, screening, and early detection of cancer among underserved and under-screened women. But the focus of this venture is to provide access to healthy food, which is considered one of the social determinants of health. In doing so, it would target a long-standing complaint that the East Side is a food desert, suffering from decades of disinvestment and lacking in options for better foods. More than 1/4 of East Side residents live in sustained poverty. These challenges are not the result of community failure, the Project Rainfall website said. They are the outcome of long-term underinvestment, and they present an urgent opportunity to reverse course in a way that creates lasting, community-owned solutions. Hubbard Robinson is founder of New Water and Associates and was founding associate director of University at Buffalo's Community Health Equity Research Institute and co-founder of the Buffalo Center for Health Equity. She worked with Erie County and state leaders to create the farmers market at the Erie County Medical Center. She also led the city's Healthy Corner Store initiative and the implementation of the indoor food production facility at Buffalo Go Green's Zenner Street Urban Farm. And she coordinated the mobile mammography coach that screened over 4,000 women.
Wow, good for her.
Hydroponics refers to an urban method of growing plants without soil, using water that is enriched with nutrients they need in controlled indoor environments that carefully control the light, temperature, and water. In doing so, they can grow plants year-round and use less water and land than traditional farming. Similar ventures have cropped up in other cities, including Las Vegas, Detroit, and Richmond. Project Rainfall is expected to produce and distribute 425,000 pounds of fresh organic produce each year, while selling 75 to 80% of its produce to the market to keep revenue circulating locally. It will also create 15 full-time permanent jobs and train 250 residents each year. Project Rainfall is still likely a year away from getting off the ground, officials concede, but BUDC approved a non-binding letter of intent to lease the 44,000 square foot building to Project Rainfall once the building is ready for occupancy. The 3-year lease would include 2 renewal options for 5 years each, as long as the tenant has operational funding, and the lease would include the parking lot and the driveway. We're early, but we're trying to at least provide her something to give her a roadmap of what we've been looking for to occupy the space and demonstrate momentum, Merriweather said. Any lease must be approved by the U.S. Economic Development Administration, which provides funding for the Northland redevelopment, and Project Rainfall has to provide proof of adequate funding.
And just a couple of quick news stories here. Kennedy announces a $1.8 million for new airport shuttle vans. U.S. Representative Tim Kennedy from Buffalo and the Niagara Frontier Transportation Authority announced Monday a grant of $1.8 million to replace 4 parking lot shuttle vans at Buffalo Niagara International Airport. Several of the airport vans have been driven more than 150,000 miles and show signs of deterioration after years of use, Kennedy said in a news release. The new shuttle vans will serve the 11,000 people that pass through the airport daily, officials said. Kennedy and the NFTA said they want to ensure the safety and comfort of passengers and also keep the airport competitive to both American and Canadian travelers. The Buffalo Niagara International Airport is the first impression tens of thousands of visitors have of our region, and we have to put our best foot forward, Kennedy said. The shuttle van funding comes 1 month after Kennedy announced $8.7 million in federal funds to finance new ground power units and replace 8 passenger boarding bridges for the airport. And Independent Health is ranked 3rd for member satisfaction in our region. Independent Health was ranked the 3rd highest health plan for member satisfaction in the New York region in J.D. Power's latest survey. Amherst-based Independent Health received a score of 592 on a 1,000-point scale. Jeez. CDPHP, which is based in the Capital District in MVP Health. Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield of Western New York and Highmark Blue Shield of Northeastern New York ranked 8th, and Excellus Blue Cross Blue Shield, which does business in Western New York at Univera Healthcare, was 10th. That seems awful low.
That's low. Less than 50% of meeting the requirements.
Yikes.
Yeesh.
And one more little thing here. Buffalo police officer shot last week is released from ECMC. The Buffalo police officer shot last week on Sherman Street was released Monday from Erie County Medical Center. Mark Hurst was shot 6 times and suffered 4 gunshot wounds as officers tried taking a man into custody. The shooting happened about 2:40 p.m. on the 26th of May in a house on Sherman, just south of Broadway. 2 of the shots hit Hurst in his protective vest. The call began as a report of domestic trouble that was upgraded to a person with the gun. Hurst, who's 32, was shot once in each calf, once in the upper thigh, and once the upper arm, police previously said. Minhas Siddiqui, 33, has been charged with first-degree attempted murder. 2 other officers shot Siddiqui after police said he shot Hurst, a Ferry Fillmore District officer hired by the Buffalo Police Department in 2017.
And a CEO says operating Springville Nursing Home is not feasible. The nonprofit that operates Jenny B. Richmond Nursing Home in Springville on Monday afternoon confirmed it will begin an orderly closure of the 80-bed nursing home after it recently received approval from the state health department. The nursing home, which is attached to the Bertrand Chaffee Hospital, will continue to provide services to residents while working closely with families, managed care plans, and the department to ensure safe and appropriate relocation. Teresa Donahue, CEO of Bertrand Chaffee Hospital and Jenny B. Richmond Nursing Home, said in an email just before 3 p.m. on Monday. This decision was made after a thorough review of the facility's long-term sustainability, Donahue said. A combination of financial challenges, staffing shortages, and the significant capital needs of the aging physical plant contributed to the determination that continued operation is just no longer feasible. The New York State Department of Health has approved an orderly closure plan, and we are committed to ensuring a safe and respectful transition for all residents. News of the nursing home closure broke Friday afternoon when 1199 SEIU, United Healthcare Workers East, which represents about 40 workers at Jenny B., notified its members after the union discovered the state had approved a plan for the nursing home to close. Late Friday, the state health department confirmed that it approved the voluntary closure plan, which was submitted by Jenny B. Richmond Nursing Home. The target closure date, according to the voluntary plan, is August the 31st, though the nursing home can continue operations beyond that date. It must remain open and operational until the last resident is safely discharged. The department's priority throughout the closure process is to ensure the health, safety, and well-being of residents, said the health department. adding that closure plans are given a thorough review and must prioritize the residents' right to choose their next home and services that they receive. As of early February, which is the most recent date available in the state's health database, Jenny B. Richmond Nursing Home had an available capacity of 43 beds. That indicates the nursing home was about half full. The Jenny B. Richmond Nursing Home was built in the early 1970s in memory of Jenny B. Richmond Chafee, the wife of the founder of Bertrand Chafe Hospital, according to the hospital's website. In 2024, the Jenny B. Nursing Home lost about $800,000 in revenues of $4.9 million, according to the nonprofit's most recent annual report with the IRS. The nursing home also lost money in 23, 22, and 21. It last recorded a net income in 2020 with $383,514 in profit.
And you are listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier radio reading service. The time is 16 minutes past the hour. And a pair of 2-ton concrete doors are going to keep Niagara River wastewater from mixing. The Buffalo Sewer Authority hopes a pair of heavy concrete doors will close a path for wastewater to run into the Niagara River. The plan is to use 2 concrete gates, each weighing 2.2 tons, to hold back a relatively tiny offshoot of the river that has caused the Water Authority's system to flood, in turn creating sewer backups in homes and business and sending Niagara River water to the wastewater treatment plant. This project is going to prevent CSO, which is combined sewer overflows, within our system and help us deal with climate change as well, said Rosalie Nogoli, principal sanitary engineer with the Buffalo Sewer Authority. The tiny offshoot set to be fitted with the gate is the mouth of the old Cornelius Creek. The creek formerly snaked through North Buffalo along and near present-day Hurdle Avenue, which used to be called Cornelius Creek Road. Over time, the creek was converted into underground sewers as the city was developed during the mid-1800s and into the late 1990s. All that remains of the former Cornelius Creek is its mouth, which is connected to the Niagara River at the Black Rock Canal Park near the intersection of Niagara and Ontario Streets. Beneath an Interstate 190 off-ramp near the intersection lay a massive sewer outfall connecting the mouth of Cornelius Creek to the Buffalo Sewer Authority's underground system. Typically, a tall dam structure within that outfall keeps the creek from overflowing into the sewer system. But during large siege events or storms, that dam can be overtaken, and the Niagara River goes rushing up through the system, flooding basements and sending river water to the Bird Island wastewater treatment plant. Sage events occur when strong winds push Lake Erie's water eastward away from Toledo, Ohio, and toward Buffalo. Sage can create waves, sometimes cresting higher than 10 feet, and can cause widespread damage to the eastern lakeshore as well as inland flooding. They also cause the Niagara River to flood as more water is pushed through it. When the wind picks up out on Lake Erie, we have water coming backwards over the dam into our system, Nobly said, and that causes the sewer both upstream and down Hurdle, as well as the sewer that heads towards our treatment plant, to fill with river and lake water instead of sewage. Sage events are becoming stronger and coming more frequently due to effects of climate change. As Earth's atmosphere warms from the excessive burning of fossil fuels, one impact is the increased frequency of windstorms and intensified thunderstorms. Both can create favorable conditions for more frequent sage. To prevent the dam from being overtaken, the Buffalo Sewer Authority has built 2 concrete doors that can be lowered to block the Niagara River's floodwater. Each door weighs more than 4,400 pounds, similar in mass to a full-sized pickup truck. It will take 14 minutes to raise or lower them through a system that is automatically triggered when water levels reach a certain point. The doors at Cornelius Creek are the latest construction project in the Buffalo Sewer Authority's $1 billion plan to reduce combined sewer overflows. The water utility has spent about $3 million constructing the doors, $2.5 million of which was funded through the FEMA flood prevention grant. Construction, which began last fall, is expected to wrap up on the 1st of July, and the Shoreline Trail section that has been closed during construction should open as construction is finished.
I wonder where the water's going to go now.
I know. That's a good question.
They don't really say that.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Let's talk about sports. Keys falls as last U.S. woman in singles play. Madison Keys, the last American woman competing in the singles draw of the 2026 French Open, fell to Russia's Diana Schneider 6-3, 3-6, 6-0 during fourth round play on Monday in Paris. The 19th seeded Keys entered the match 3-0 in her career against number 25 Schneider, but was done in by poor serving, 4 double faults and 2 aces, and 50 unforced errors against 27 winners. Of those errors, 19 came in a disastrous third set, where Keys won just 11 of 37 points. The 2025 Australian Open champion, Keys, reached the semifinals of the French Open in 2018, but hasn't returned to that level since. She finished in the quarterfinals twice, including last year. With the win, Schneider advances to a Grand Slam quarterfinal for the first time in her career. The 22-year-old reached the fourth round of the 2024 U.S. Open, but was unable to break through to the quarterfinals prior to this victory, which snapped an 8-match losing streak against top 20 opponents. Definitely super happy and proud of myself, Schneider said after her win. Went on court today thinking about just, I need to grind Monday. Definitely clay, a little different conditions than hard courts. So just tried to be more consistent today with trying to use more spin, more high balls, and then just putting more balls and trying to decrease my unforced errors. But then at the same time, have an opportunity to be more aggressive. Schneider will next face number 1 seed Ariana Sabalenka of Belarus, the runner-up at last year's French Open, who advanced to her 4th straight French Open quarterfinal with a 7-5, 6-3 defeat of number 16 Naomi Osaka of Japan in the first women's night session match in 3 years. In other Monday action, Polish qualifier Maja Szolinska kept her stunning run going with a 6-3, 6-2 defeat of France's Diane Parry to reach the quarterfinals. Szolinska, the first quarter qualifier to reach the quarterfinals since Nadia Podoroska and Martina Trevisan in 2020, saved the only break point she faced on her serve while converting 3 of 6 on Parry's serve. While they both had 21 winners, Parry had nearly 3 times as many errors, 38-14. Next up will be number 2, Anna Kalinskaya of Russia, who beat number 28, Anastasia Potapova of Austria, 6-4, 2-6, 7-6, 7, in a 2-hour, 49-minute marathon to reach her second slam quarterfinal. I don't know how they play that game that long. It was a defensive battle as both competitors won fewer than 50% of their service points, with Kalinskaya converting 8 of 12 break points, while Potapova converted 9 of 14. Kalinskaya won despite committing 58 unforced errors and being broken 3 times in the final set. A really long fight from both of us till the last seconds, Kalinskaya said. I've played her many times, but this one was definitely special. She improved a lot, so today was super challenging. Vallejo fined $65,000 for sexist remarks. Paraguay's Adolfo Daniel Vallejo was fined $65,000 at the French Open for saying his loss last week should not have been umpired by a woman, organizers confirmed on Monday.
Wow.
Vallejo led 5-2 in the 5th set last Thursday before 17-year-old French teenager Moise Kouame rallied for 6-3, 7-5, 3-6, 2-6, 7-6, 8 second-round victory in front of a boisterous home crowd at Roland Garros. Vallejo, 22, later complained to the tennis publication Clay that this sort of mess needs to be umpired by a man. He took issue with umpire Anna Kalavho, claiming she failed to control the spectators and allowed Kouame to take too much time between points. It's very difficult for a woman to do it, Vallejo said. It has to be refereed by a man because it's a very demanding crowd and you need a lot of strength to go against the crowd. The crowd was very out of line, but I understand they're supporting their compatriot. It's quite an intense crowd, and that's why I was prepared. I already knew it would be like that, and to be honest, it didn't harm me, but rather strengthened him. Players who lost in the second round last week in Paris received $151,000, leaving Vallejo with $86,000 after the fine. Jeez, that doesn't seem like it. This is clearly unacceptable, Roland Garros director Emily Marismo said. Once again, such remarks have no place here. Vallejo was ranked 71st in the world, later posted in Spanish on X that his words had been misconstrued. I never spoke about a woman in general. I spoke about the referee specifically, who didn't handle the crowd at any point during the match, he wrote. That said, I also didn't say that I lost because of her. I congratulated the opponent, and it's normal for the crowd to cheer for the home player. I think he did.
Wrong answer.
Yeah.
Sound like he meant it to me.
Yeah.
Okay, and so NFL coach John Fox, who had retired, is now coming to chase Super Bowls with the Bills. Until he experienced retirement, John Fox did not understand why some of his coaching mentors were unwilling or unable to enjoy a life revolving around daily tea times or overseas vacations. Sid Gilman, the Hall of Fame coach credited with innovating the NFL's downfield passing game, warned Fox about the restlessness. Gilman was in his late 60s in 1979 when he walked away from his job as athletic director at U.S. International University in San Diego to rejoin the Philly Eagles as an offensive coach. I said, Sid, are you nuts? Recalled Fox, who at 71 years old halted his second retirement in February to join the Buffalo Bills as a senior assistant coach. He goes, Foxy, I got tired that my most important decision of the day was when to book my tea time. It didn't make much sense to me then, and I lived it. Fox was enjoying a round of golf on a brisk Wednesday morning in February when his cell phone rang. The caller, Bills general manager and president of football operations Brandon Beane, is a close friend. They've known each other since 2002 when Fox became head coach of the Carolina Panthers, and Beane was a young, eager employee in the team's football operations department. Beane introduced Fox to the other voice on the line, Joe Brady, whom the Bills had promoted a few weeks earlier to replace Sean McDermott as head coach. As the conversation began, Fox heard a group of agitated golfers hollering toward the 12th green. He waved and sauntered off, unsure if the round would be the last of his second foray into retirement. Brady, who's 36, became the youngest head coach in the NFL. He had never held the top job at any level, and Fox wanted to help, but he needed to know Brady would accept help. It has been 9 years since Fox was a head coach. He lost in the Super Bowl twice during his 16 seasons, leading the Panthers, Denver Broncos, and the Chicago Bears. The job no longer interested him. He had become even more demanding since the Bears fired him in 2017. He reassured Brady that he didn't have ulterior motives. Fox wanted to return to football to make an impact on young coaches and players. Approximately 1 month earlier, shortly before McDermott's firing, Fox contacted Beane to offer to help whomever the Bills hired. Retirement has been good for Fox. He and his wife of 41 years, Robin, explored historic streets of Portugal's city, Lisbon, and the white sand beach of Turks and Caicos. But 3 years into his second retirement, Fox felt the pull again. He missed the competition, scouring every second of a game to try to find an opponent's weakness. Fox didn't need to work again, but he wanted to work if the right situation arose. He was not going to ask Robin to move for a 19th time unless he believed in and trusted the people involved. 3 days following their conversation on a golf course, Brady called to ask Fox to join the Bills. The offer, especially the opportunity to win a Super Bowl, convinced Fox to return to coaching for a 34th season. You get a feel for whether a person wants to help or they're threatened by the help, Fox told the Buffalo News following a recent OTA practice in Orchard Park. You don't want to be in that situation. There have been other opportunities I've had where I didn't feel good about it, so I didn't do it. The key thing for me, even initially, was Joe's eagerness. It wasn't like he was doing it for Brandon, and Brandon is smart enough not to do that for Joe. I just felt really good about it. He felt good about me, and I felt good about him. It was, let's do it. On his 71st birthday, hours before Robin was to host a Super Bowl party to celebrate him, Fox boarded a flight to Buffalo. The pull to return to football never ceased, even though he had loved splitting time between Charlotte, North Carolina, and Marco Island, Florida. He scratched the itch by consulting for friends who had still coached. Fox watched the all-22 tape of NFL teams. He studied trends and tendencies, sharing those thoughts with whomever he decided to help. It wasn't the same, though. The competitiveness was missing.
Wow. And you're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time, 30 minutes after the hour. Let's talk about auto racing. Hamlin finishes where he started. Denny Hamlin started up front, immediately went to last, and finished right back where he started on Sunday night. Hamlin won a 3-wide battle on the final lap and started the second half of the regular season with a victory Sunday night, topping Joe Gibbs Racing teammates Christopher Bell and Chase Briscoe in the Cracker Barrel 400 on Sunday night at the Nashville Superspeedway located in Lebanon, Tennessee. In a 4-lap shootout to decide the 6th race at the Tennessee track, Hamlin restarted third in his number 11 Camry and raced side by side with Bell before clearing the number 20 off turn 2 and winning by 0.115 seconds to give Toyota its first win in the Music City. He joined Chase Elliott as 2-time Cup Series winners this season, having also won at Las Vegas in March. Tyler Reddick leads the pack with 5 victories this season and has 657 points, with the 45-year-old Hamlin second in the standing, 97 points behind at 560. I was just side by side with the 20, and he drove in so deep on that last lap into turn 1 that it just allowed me to barely clear him off of turn 2, said Hamlin, who overcame a lap 1 penalty but rebounded to lead 57 laps for his 62nd career win. Man, what an unbelievable day. Starting first, going to last, back to first. Bell blamed himself after watching a replay of the 3-wide skirmish. I didn't win the race, man, Bell said after his 5th top 5 finish of the season. There is nothing to blame. I had the best car on the racetrack, and we had the lead on the restart. I got a great push from Denny on the restart, and we didn't win the race. Briscoe, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and Shane Van Gisbergen completed the top 5. Reddick was 6th and Elliott 7th. After the drivers waded through an hour-plus rain delay, Hamlin led the 38-car field in the 14th race of the 26 campaign. A 300-lapper with a new obstacle, a green, 1.333-mile concrete track after rain washed away plenty of grip. Hamlin made a mistake right away and was posted by NASCAR for jumping the race's start. His car had to serve a penalty by coming down pit road under green, handing the top spot points to leader Reddick as the teams prepared for a short run to the lap 35 competition caution. I definitely jumped the start, no doubt about that, Hamlin said. A few teams took 2 tires for track position, and Trackhouse Racing's Van Gisbergen restarted at the point. However, Kyle Larson soon grabbed the lead with Bell hounding him in second as the pair broke away from the field. With about 20 laps left in Stage 1, rookie Connor Zilisch hit the front stretch wall hard, and his number 88 Chevrolet rode it through turn 1 for the second caution. Ross Chastain, the 23 Nashville winner, became the second Trackhouse Racing driver to have a right front brake rotor fail when he wrecked with 8 laps left in the segment. A.J. Allmendinger notched his first stage win since 24 when he beat Larson, Ryan Blaney, Elliott, and Reddick in a 2-lap dash to lap 90. Larson led Briscoe in a 2-car breakaway until Briscoe's number 19 Toyota finally passed the number 5 Chevrolet in lap number 127. Daniel Suarez, last week's winner of the Coca-Cola 600 Crown Jewel race, claimed Stage 2 over Alex Bowman, Stenhouse, Austin Cindric, and Hamlin when caution 7 flew. The Fords of Brad Keselowski and Cindric wrecked on the restart, setting up a 99-lap run with teammates Hamlin, Briscoe, and Bell up front. Van Gisbergen was frustrated by the finishing result last week in Charlotte, 11th, but he was encouraged by running inside the top 10 for most of the day. SVG got that result in the wild 4-lap run to the finish, driving past Elliott and Reddick on the front stretch by inches to claim 5th, his first top 5 on an oval track of any type. The driver of the number 97 is 12th in points coming out of the weekend, 44 points ahead of 17th. 2 road course races, San Diego and Sonoma, loom back-to-back in 2 weeks, and those will be massive chances to pad his cushion to the cut line. Rough season for Chastain. Chastain's no-good 26 season continued at Nashville Superspeedway. The number 1 Chevrolet lost a brake rotor in lap 82 in a carbon copy manner to his teammate Connor Zilisch 11 laps earlier. Chastain smacked the wall and rode it for a while before slowly returning to the garage. Chastain was credited with a 37th place finish. He leaves Nashville in 26th in points, unofficially 67 points off the chase cut line. This is the difference in the dynamic between the chase and the playoff format. Instead of being one good run and a race win away from the final 16, Chastain has a tall task to rescue a first half of the season to forget.
And moving over to golf, some major champs apparently were chumps as they did not golf well at the Memorial Tournament. And they are preparing to celebrate its 50th anniversary this week, and its list of winners is impressive, beginning with event founder and host Jack Nicklaus, who won his own tournament twice. Add Tiger Woods to the mix, then Tom Watson, Ernie Els, Raymond Floyd, Hale Irwin, Vijay Singh, Greg Norman, Curtis Strange, John Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, 2-time defending Memorial champion Scotty Scheffler, and 2026 Memorial honoree David Graham. And that comes to 13 multi-major winners with a combined 69 championship titles. Applause, applause. On the other hand, the crew here at Dispatch Golf Central thought it would be interesting to riff on the recurring question: who is the best player never to win a major? What does the Memorial have to do with majors? Well, in its early days, the annual PGA Tour event at Muirfield Village Golf Club often was mentioned in golfing circles as being the 5th major. Nicklaus, who knows something about majors, having won a record 18 of them, stiff-armed and any suggestion he pushed the 5th major narrative, but the Golden Bear also never protested too loudly when the conversation arose. With that in mind, let's rank the best players never to win the Memorial, with active players among the top 5. And let's set some ground rules. Players must have made a minimum of 5 appearances in Dublin, all before age 45. Why 5? Any smaller sample size skews the validity of the results. So you won't find Sam Snead on the list, even though his 82 career tour wins ties Tiger Woods for most ever. Slammin' Sammy played in the first Memorial of 1976 at age 64 and returned in 82 before calling it a day. Likewise, Seve Ballesteros, 5 majors, played only twice at Jack's Place. Brooks Koepka, 5 majors, has made just 3 visits to Muirfield. The age limit also means 9-time major winner Gary Player avoids making the all-time list. The South African turned 45 before competing in his 5th Memorial in 1982, as do Arnie Palmer and Billy Casper. Adam Scott, who turned 45 in July, narrowly missed being considered for the active list. No LIV golfers make the active list, which probably suits Dustin Johnson just fine. So here it is. Best active players to have never won the Memorial Tournament. Rory McIlroy, one of only 6 players to win golf's Grand Slam, Masters PGA Championship, US Open, British Open. The native of Northern Ireland is the only active member of that exclusive club. Woods is 50 and inactive at the moment without a Memorial trophy. The 37-year-old also is the only player on both lists. His 6 majors ties for 12th most ever, and 30 tour victories tied for 16th most, but in 13 visits to Muirfield, his best finish is a tie for 4th in 2016. McIlroy still has plenty of years to receive the winner's handshake from Nicklaus, but diminishing skills have a way of sneaking up on you. Better get to it. Jordan Spieth. It's true Spieth's best days appear to be behind him. At 32, he is not the same dominant player who won his first tour title at age 19 and in 2015 tied Woods' score record at the Masters by winning at 18 under par. The Texan added a U.S. Open victory the same year and captured his third major at the British Open in 2017. But a long dry spell followed, and his last win was in 2022. But his overall resume, combined with names of recognition that remains top 5 among tour players, puts him fairly and squarely on this list as he prepares to tee it up at his 13th Memorial, where his best finish was a tie for third in 2015. Number 3 is Jason Day. Day is Australian, but has lived in a secluded estate near Westerville, Ohio since 2010. His wife, Ellie, is from the Mansfield area. He is also a member of Muirfield Village, which might give him a home field advantage. But logic clearly has nothing to do with it, because Day's best finish in 15 starts was a tie for fourth in 2020. Day spent 51 weeks at number 1 in the official world golf ranking in 2015 and 16, has one major in 2015, the PGA Championship, and a total of 4 runner-up finishes in the other 3 majors, 1 Masters, 2 U.S. Open, and 1 British Open, to go along with his 13 tour wins. He's having a decent year with 3 top 12 finishes, but at age 38, the clock is ticking. Number 4, Justin Thomas. The Louisville native nearly won at Muirfield Village. It just wasn't the Memorial. He finished second to Colin Morikawa in a playoff at the 2020 Workday Charity Open, a one-and-done PGA Tour event held in Dublin a week before the Memorial. The tournament was played in July due to COVID, and Thomas bogeyed the 18th hole in regulation, resulting in a sudden death playoff, which Morikawa won with a par on the 3rd extra hole. Thomas owns 2 PGA championships and is coming off a tie for 4th at the May 17th PGA Championship. The 33-year-old, ranked 16th in the world, has a best Memorial finish of tied for 4th in 2017. And lastly, Xander Schauffele. Going strictly by world rankings, this list could have put Cameron Young, number 3, Matt Fitzpatrick, number 4, Morikawa, number 6, and Tommy Fleetwood, number 7, ahead of number 8, Schauffele. But the 32-year-old has something the others don't: a gold medal, won at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. He also has won 2 majors, in 24 the PGA Championship and 24 British Open, to go with a runner-up finish at the 2019 Masters and a third-place finish at 2019 U.S. Open. The San Diego's native's best finish over 8 Memorials is tied for 8th in 2024. He is due.
Let's talk about basketball. Just call them the New Jersey Knicks. The New York Knicks are going to the 26 NBA Finals, and though the Big Apple is across the river from New Jersey, there are plenty of Garden State ties to the Knickerbockers this season. After completing the sweep of the Cleveland Cavaliers last week to win the Eastern Conference Finals, the Knicks will be playing for a title for the first time since 1999. They'll play Game 1 against the San Antonio Spurs on Wednesday. Some ties are stronger than others, but any New Jersey roots, if you're from the Garden State, are worth amplifying and being proud of. From all-star players to the assistant coaches and a couple of executives, these might as well be the New Jersey Knicks. Take a look. Number 1, 6-time All-Star Karl Anthony Towns. Born in Edison, the 7-foot shooting big man grew up in Piscataway and played high school ball at St. Joseph in Middlesex County and led them to 3 consecutive state titles. He chose to play at Kentucky for college and was selected the number 1 draft pick in 2015. This postseason, he's averaging 16.9 points, 10.6 rebounds, while shooting 48.9% from deep. Jalen Brunson. Though the 3-time All-Star played high school basketball in Illinois, he was born in New Brunswick and resided in South Jersey for the early years of his life. For college, he wasn't too far from Jersey. He went to Villanova, 30 minutes outside of Philadelphia, where he won 2 national titles. He's been leading scorer for the Knicks in the postseason, averaging 26.9 points. Rick Brunson is the father of Jalen and also has been an assistant coach for the Knicks since 2022. His most recent stint in New Jersey was being the head coach for the Camden High just outside of Philadelphia. He led Camden to a state championship in 2021. Brunson played college basketball in Philly at Temple, and he played for 8 different teams in the NBA. Mark Bryant has been a Knicks assistant coach since 2024. He was born in Glen Ridge in Essex County and played high school basketball at Columbia High School in Maplewood. The 6'9" first-round draft pick stayed home for college and played at Seton Hall, where he earned first-team All-Big East honors. He had an extensive NBA career that spanned 15 years. Chris Gent is the associate head coach of the Knicks. Though he was born in California, the former Ohio State player grew up in Sparta, which is in Sussex County, and he was a 2,000-point scorer at Sparta High. Darren Ehrman, the current assistant coach of the Knicks, got his start in coaching in the Garden State. He quit his career as a lawyer to become an assistant under Hall of Fame coach Bob Hurley at the now-closed St. Anthony School in Jersey City. He has been an assistant coach for the Knicks since 2020. Maurice Cheeks. Remember when New Jersey had its own basketball team, the Nets? Knicks assistant coach Cheeks played 35 games for the New Jersey Nets. The franchise moved to Brooklyn in 2012. Leon Rose. Rose, the Knicks president, was a pesky 5'10" point guard who made varsity at Cherry Hill East as a sophomore, and he cracked the starting lineup in his junior year. He went on to play and study political science in Division III, Dickens College in Pennsylvania. And finally, William Wesley, the Knicks executive vice president, senior basketball advisor, was born in Camden and played basketball for the Pennsauken High School. There you go.
Yeah, that's
all those ties.
It's pretty interesting. So let's see what's going on with Dear Eric. Dear Eric, a good friend of 30 years lashed out at me. During a group dinner, she announced that she was going to apply for a restraining order against someone who had been harassing and stalking her. Once a week, I play volleyball with that person. The person sometimes tries to talk to me about my good friend. I tell that person not to do that, and I stay out of that issue. He never admitted to me of harassing or stalking my friend. During the dinner, my good friend asked everyone for supporting declarations. I declined to do so because I've been a lawyer for 40 years and had extensive experience in restraining orders. I know that my declaration would not benefit her application for the restraining order, as I had no personal knowledge of his harassing or stalking my friend. She told me I was not her friend, and she did not want to do anything with me. This really shocked me. I think it's my business who I play volleyball with. In the past, I offered her my help in drafting the application for a restraining order. I hope she prevails in her request now, and had she asked me, I would have assisted her in drafting it in a lawyer-like manner. I'm not sure how to respond to her anger. Signed, Shocked Friend. Dear friend, if you have extensive experience in restraining orders, it's surprising that you don't see how your volleyball friend has conscripted you into his alleged stalking. You write that you tell him not to ask about your good friend and then stay out of the issue. If you know there's an issue, or suspect there is, and have been made uncomfortable by the volleyball friend's request, then I'd expect you be more empathetic to your good friend's request. It doesn't sound like your good friend is asking you to be judge and jury. It sounds like she's expressing the very real fear and concern that stalking and harassment provoke, and you've responded in a way that downplays her concerns. I know that you offered to help draft the restraining order in the past. It's important to recognize that that's not the support she asked for right now. If there's any contact between you going forward, she'll likely have trouble trusting you. So that's something you should consider and attempt to address with an apology. One more thing to think about. If you're willing to help draft a restraining order against a friend, it suggests that you don't think the order is without merit. So you should ask yourself why you'd want to continue a friendship with that person. Dear Eric, on a recent visit at my daughter's home, I saw that the drywall in her house had recently been repaired. The repair was to both sides of the wall. When I asked my daughter about it, she said her husband had damaged the wall when he got angry about something, but immediately assured me that he had never hit a person. Needless to say, I am very concerned about her husband's issues with anger management after this incident. They have one child, a toddler, and I visit their home overnight on a regular basis to provide childcare. I am worried that if I express too much concern to my daughter, she may tell her husband and my access to my grandchild may be affected. I have seen other signs of inappropriate anger from my son-in-law, sometimes directed at my daughter, but more often at other people. I have not said anything to anyone about these concerns, but this is the first time I have seen his anger manifest into this type of property damage. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Signed, in a quandary. Dear Quandary, even if your son-in-law hasn't been physically violent towards your daughter, his angry outbursts create a dangerous environment for her and for your grandchild. As someone who is sometimes in the house overnight, it's also potentially dangerous for you too. So you're right to be concerned. Start by talking with her, prioritizing listening and a non-judgmental position. Helping a family member to see that they're in a potentially abusive situation requires that they trust you and see you as a resource. It may be slower going than you would like. The National Domestic Violence Hotline, the hotline.org, has more helpful guidance for how to have these conversations. If he decides to limit your access to your grandchild, that's the kind of isolating behavior that's a hallmark of emotional abuse. Suggest that she create a safety plan, guidance for which can also be found on the hotline site, and encourage her to talk with others as well. This isn't something that you should take on by yourself.
Let's see some hints from Heloise. Hold on to the boxes. Dear Heloise, should I hold on to the original sets of boxes for collectibles like crystal and figurines? Laurel B. via email. Laurel, you should only keep old boxes if they help you. Some items, like crystal or small statues, are worth more money if you still have the original box. Having the box is helpful if you want to sell them or give them as a gift later, but having too many empty boxes can fill your closet with clutter. You can try to do a little of both by keeping boxes for items that are very special or worth a lot of money. You can throw away boxes for things that you want to keep forever. To save space, you can fold the boxes flat or put them all in one big bin. When the boxes start to take up too much room, then it's time to get rid of them. Cleaning out a few boxes now will save you from having a big mess later. Dear Heloise, when kids start driving the family car, there's one easy rule to help things go smoothly. Make a rule that the car must always come home with a full tank of gas. This rule teaches kids how to be responsible without the effort of a long talk. It also makes it fair for everyone who uses the car. No one likes to start the car and see the gas light blinking, especially when they're late for work or an event. Parents can also ask kids to throw away their trash and report any car problems right away. One parent said this rule became a normal part of their day. These small habits teach kids to respect the things that they share with others, and it saves time and money for the whole family. Mm-hmm. Signed, Kelly E. in Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
Smart storage for mats. Dear Heloise, baking mats are thin, but they can still be hard to store. They often slide around, oh yeah they do, or get lost in a messy drawer. Mm-hmm. But there's an easy way to keep them neat. I put 2 strong clips on the inside of a cabinet kitchen door, then hang the mats so that they stay flat. This method keeps them from getting wrinkled or bent. You won't have to roll them up or dig through a drawer anymore. One of my friends tried this, loved it. Now their mats stay hidden and are easy to find. Hanging the mats helps them to keep their shape so that they last longer. This simple trick helps you stay organized and save space in your kitchen. Dear Heloise, in response to Naomi regarding scam callers wanting our personal information, I just don't answer calls from anyone I don't know or anyone who isn't on my contact list. I figure that if it's important, they'll leave a message. I don't want them to know that the number belongs to somebody who answers the phone. Susan, this is probably the best way to handle scam calls. However, I've gotten letters from readers who claim that they rant at the callers as a way to release their tension. I don't advise this method. Stay silent, and after a while, they should stop bothering you.
And a little bit on this day in history. In 1865, after 4 years of domestic bloodshed, the Civil War was widely regarded to have officially ended when the commander of the final viable Confederate Army in the nation, Lieutenant General Edmund Kirby Smith, signed terms of surrender for the Trans-Mississippi Division aboard the USSS Fort Jackson in Galveston Bay, Texas. In 1924, President Calvin Coolidge signed an act into law that granted citizenship to all indigenous people born within U.S. borders. In 1935, baseball legend Babe Ruth announced his retirement from the sport after hitting what would become a long-standing record, 714 home runs during his 22-year Hall of Fame career. And in 1953, London's Westminster Abbey was the site of the British Queen Elizabeth's third coronation, the first British coronation to be televised.
You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for today, Tuesday, June 2nd. We read the Buffalo News live on weekday and Sunday mornings at 9 and rebroadcast at 4. For more information, call 716-821-5555. Your readers today have been Lori and
Lita.
Thank you so much for listening. Have a great rest of your day.
Welcome summer with your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. We're planning a summer bash bigger and better than ever before. It's Friday, June 26th at Creekside Banquet Facility in Grove, located at the corner of Union Road and William Street in Cheektowaga. You're invited to enjoy a buffet chicken and pasta dinner, your first drink on us, a basket raffle, and Buffalo Music Hall of Fame party band The Boys of Summer from 6 to 9 p.m. Tickets are $50 and support the 160 volunteers who read all the programming offered by Radio Reading. That's Friday, June 26th from 6 to 9 p.m. at Creekside Banquet Facility in Grove in Cheektowaga. Get your tickets now by calling 716-821-5555 extension 3 or online at nfradioreading.org. Thank you to New Era Kep Foundation, Tyvarian Law, and Perry's Ice Cream for sponsoring this largest event of the year.
who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability